What's up?
This guy here just fired a gun.
Like a real one or a fake one?
I don't know, but I wasn't going to find out. That's that. Hey, buddy.
Let me see your hands.
Show your hands.
Put your hands up. Put your hands up now.
Just show your hands. Just show.
Put your hands up.
Don't do it.
Put your hands up, buddy.
Hey.
It ain't even worth it. What are you doing?
Hey, just set it down.
Just drop it.
Just set it down.
It's all good, dog.
Set it down. Set it down.
Shots fired, 10:33. I'm gonna put him on stomach. Stomach. He's got a gun! He's got a gun!
Officer Longworth and Edmunds were assisting at the food line prior to responding to Mr. Raney's location. They didn't have the opportunity to receive additional information from dispatch or any information from a call for service. This came word of mouth from the security guard near the food line in reference to a colleague who had a weapon pointed at them on the other side of the parking lot. Longworth and Edmunds traveled approximately 800 feet across the parking lot in an effort to investigate what had come to them through the security guard. Upon arrival, they immediately make contact with the security guard, who confirms that the subject sitting in the grass nearby was the individual who had pointed a weapon at him just previously. They begin to walk towards Mr. Raney while verbalizing to him what it is they wanted him to do. While they engage Mr. Raney in a conversation, that is when he presented a firearm from the book bag, at which point you can hear the verbal dialogue that the officers are using clearly changes from "let me see your hands" or "raise your hands" to "drop it, it's not worth it, put it down." Clear indicators that the officers see a firearm in Mr. Raney's right hand. At about 17:54 hours, Mr. Raney had removed the firearm from the backpack and leveled the weapon in the direction of the officer Edmunds. It's at that time that the first shots were fired. Once the shots are fired, officers continued to move forward towards Mr. Raney while covering him, and we can see here on the body cam footage a silver and black semi-automatic handgun in the torso area of Mr. Raney prior to it falling to the ground. In this case, Mr. Raney initially falls to his side. While laying on his side, the video clearly indicates that he is still in possession of the weapon and may still pose a lethal threat towards the officers so long as he continues to possess that weapon. And the officers were in a vulnerable position and forced to make a critical decision within seconds of arriving at this call. Unknown of the condition of Mr. Raney, officers secure him in handcuffs, which is consistent with their training, while they identify whether he has any other weapons or continues to be a threat in any way. We can hear individuals in the background yelling at the officers. It's unknown whether those individuals intend to come over, converge on the officers, or if there's anyone else that had been threatened or injured during the incident. The officers had a lot of information to process. They were worried about managing the crime scene, managing site security, directing in additional resources, and then providing aid to Mr. Raney upon the arrival of additional officers. Those officers then used their training that they received through TACMED to perform life-saving efforts on Mr. Raney, utilizing chest seals, gauze, and other resources in an effort to stop the bleeding and save Mr. Raney's life prior to CFD and medics' arrival. Over the course of this investigation, CMPD detectives and the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation has learned that Mr. Raney, in fact, had placed a 911 call for service at about 0558 hours on November 5th, 2021 from the 6700 block of Winding Cedar Trail in the Hickory Grove Division. Mr. Raney had just been in an argument with a family member and was walking in the woods to get away from them. The call for service from Mr. Raney stated that he had located 2 dead bodies behind that address in the 6700 block of Winding Cedar Trail. Numerous officers responded to the area and searched the woods, but it was determined that Mr. Raney was imagining what he was reporting. Members of CMPD's Crisis Intervention Team also responded and spoke with Mr. Raney. Officers urged Mr. Raney to be evaluated at the hospital, but he refused any kind of treatment. Officers referred family members to the magistrate to attempt to seek an involuntary commitment order. Officers reported that Mr. Raney was lucid during their conversations and did not appear to want to hurt himself or anyone else. Due to Mr. Raney appearing lucid and not wanting to harm himself or others, the officers did not have cause to seek involuntary commitment papers on the family's behalf. A total of 10 officers responded to this initial call for service, 4 of which were members of CMPD's Crisis Intervention Team, as it took place at 0558 hours that morning with a different shift of officers, and they had no way to connect Mr. Raney to the earlier call for service from almost 3 miles away.